People think money buys freedom, but for many rich people, it buys suspicion. The more money you have, the harder it becomes to trust anyone. Do they love you or your lifestyle? Do they respect you or your power? Do they help you or want something back? And at some point, wealth stops feeling like security and starts feeling like paranoia. Distrust rarely appears all at once. It usually begins with one experience that changes the way you see people forever. At first, it might be a friend asking for money. Not once, but again and again, more often and more insistently. And gradually, you begin to notice that friendship starts mixing with expectations, hidden motives, and constant requests. Then it might be a family member who starts acting differently when they learn about your money and opportunities. They become closer when they need something. They show interest when there is something to gain from you. Sometimes it gets worse. You get used, your trust, your kindness, your openness, your willingness to help. Someone borrows money and disappears. Someone promises to pay it back and vanishes from your life forever. And this is where the first real hit happens. You realize money changes people's behavior and you begin to look at everyone with caution and doubt. Over time, you begin to notice that money changes not only your life, but the behavior of people around you. People become more polite, more attentive, and far more interested in what you say and do. Flattery appears. People praise you more, support you more, and argue with you less openly. Your jokes seem funnier. Your ideas seem smarter. Your decisions seem more correct. Fake interest appears. People begin asking more about you than they ever did before, but not always out of sincerity. Sometimes they seek access, benefits, opportunities, or useful connections. Someone texts just to ask how you are. Someone suddenly remembers you after many years. Random requests begin to appear. Small favors, advice, help, recommendations, introductions. At first, it all seems harmless, but over time, you begin to notice patterns. You begin to see hidden motives in almost every conversation and every new connection, in every message, in every show of attention, in every unexpected act of care. And this is where distrust begins to grow, because it becomes harder to know who is sincere and who simply wants something from you, your money, your connections, or your opportunities. And the more often it happens, the more you begin to doubt people and their intentions. Over time, you stop looking for sincerity. You start looking for hidden motives in everyone. When money enters your life, it changes more than your level of comfort. It changes how you see the people around you. You begin to notice details you never paid attention to before. The tone of someone's voice, the moment they texted, what they said, and what they intentionally left unsaid. Every message now goes through an internal filter. You automatically ask yourself, why are they texting now? What is behind this sentence? This is not paranoia, it is adaptation. Your mind is learning to protect itself from people who come with intentions, not sincerity. You begin separating people into categories. Those who have been around for years and those who appeared after your success became visible. Old friends stay on one shelf, new connections go on another. And between them is always one question: what does this person really want from me? You analyze not only words but actions. Who helps when you are struggling? Who disappears when there is nothing to take? Over time, this analysis becomes automatic. You can no longer just talk. You observe. You read people. You test them. And the hardest part is realizing that your suspicions are often correct. People really do come with motives. It changes you from the inside. You become sharper in judgment but colder in relationships. And one day, you realize you stopped simply trusting people. There comes a moment when you stop opening up first. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you already know how it ends. You used to talk openly about your plans, your dreams, and your money. Now you hold information back, even from people you consider close. The circle of people you trust begins to shrink. Not suddenly, gradually. One by one, people stop passing your internal test. Fewer friends does not always mean loneliness. It means choosing quality over quantity. You begin valuing those who were there before the money. Honesty becomes a luxury. You can no longer simply vent. Every word now carries weight and possible consequences. You begin keeping your distance, not out of arrogance, but out of experience. You have already seen sincerity turn into vulnerability. New relationships go through a filter. You watch longer than before. Trust is no longer given freely, it is earned over time. And this changes the nature of relationships. They become more controlled, more cautious, less alive, but safer. You do not pay for trust with money. You pay with time, tests, and constant control over what you say and to whom. Trust becomes an expensive resource. And the more money you have, the fewer people you are willing to give it to. At a certain level of wealth, you realize it becomes impossible to control everything on your own. That is when other people begin doing it for you. At first, it feels like convenience. An assistant handles calls, meetings, and small tasks. You free up time, and it feels like freedom. Then a manager appears. They filter requests, cut out distractions, and organize your schedule. Access to you becomes limited and controlled. A lawyer reviews every contract, every agreement, and every new partner. You stop trusting words. Now only signatures and documents matter. Security creates the final layer. Physical access to you now goes through a filter as well. Your space becomes protected territory. From the outside, it looks like power. But from the inside, it feels different. You build walls not for status, but for protection. Each of these people serves one purpose: keeping outsiders from getting too close. The world around you becomes controlled but less alive. And over time, you notice that filters work both ways. They protect you from the world but also separate you from it. Real conversations become rare. People around you say what you want to hear because that is what they are paid for. You built a system to protect yourself from manipulation, but that same system separates you from honesty. And the line between safety and isolation gets thinner. No one warns you about this in advance. That one day all these filters, protections, and distances will create absolute silence around you. You are surrounded by people, but real connection is gone. Assistants, managers, partners, everyone is there, but no one is truly close. The loneliness of the rich looks different from the loneliness of the poor. On the outside, a full calendar, meetings, events. On the inside, the feeling that no one truly knows you. Information starts getting filtered too. People around you stop telling the truth. They tell you what feels safe, what you want to hear. You begin living in a bubble where everything looks stable, controlled, and predictable. But the real picture of the world no longer reaches you. Bad news gets softened. Sharp edges get smoothed out. Criticism disappears, and you begin making decisions based on a distorted reality. Distrust spreads to everyone. Even people who sincerely want to help become suspects. You can no longer tell honesty from performance. And it becomes a vicious cycle. The more you protect yourself, the less honesty you receive. The less honesty you receive, the more you want protection. Wealth promised freedom. But at this level, it takes away the simplest thing: the ability to be yourself around another person without calculation or caution. Isolation is not a choice. It is the price people pay for a certain level of success, and many pay it without realizing they have been alone for a long time. There is a line where caution turns into something else. You stop doubting strangers and start doubting the people you love. It happens quietly. First, it is just a thought. What if? Then the thought comes back, and one day you realize it never leaves. A prenup stops being a formality. It becomes a necessity because you can no longer afford to trust even the closest person without proof. You begin checking phones, routes, conversations. Not because there is a reason, but because the absence of a reason no longer calms you. Surveillance begins. At first indirectly, through mutual friends, through small details, then directly. You want to know everything and fear what you may find. The people around you go through screenings. Security teams investigate backgrounds, connections, and finances. Trust is replaced by verification. Control becomes a lifestyle. You build systems to monitor the people you call your own, and you call it protection. But beneath that control is fear. Fear of being used. Fear of looking naive. Fear that everything around you is built on calculation, not emotion. Paranoia does not make you stronger. It makes you a prisoner of your own suspicions. You spend energy controlling life instead of living it. And the most destructive part, you no longer remember what it feels like to simply trust. No checks, no backup plan, no contract. Just faith in the person beside you. At a certain level of success, you gain access to almost everything. Any service, any person, any door can be opened with money. You can buy time, attention, and loyalty. You can hire people to stay beside you 24 hours a day, but none of them will be truly sincere. Sincerity is the one thing that cannot be bought. It cannot be ordered, written into a contract, or verified by a security team. And that becomes the greatest paradox of wealth. The more resources you have, the less access you have to what money cannot buy. People at the highest level know this. They are surrounded by teams, advisors, and partners. But real conversations without masks or roles become rare. Money fundamentally distorts relationships. When capital stands between people, equality disappears. And without equality, true trust cannot exist. You begin to realize that wealth does not strengthen relationships, it tests them. And most relationships fail that test. They simply change form. The ones who remain are the ones who adapt. They learn the right words, keep the right distance, and never cross the line. That is not closeness, it is professionalism. And at some point, you realize you have been living among people who do not know you. They know your status, your habits, and your rules, but not you. That is the real paradox. Wealth gives you everything except one thing: the certainty that the person beside you is there because they want to be, not because it benefits them. People think wealth brings security, but in reality, it makes the world feel suspicious. The more you have, the harder it becomes to know who is there out of love and who is there for personal gain. You built filters, contracts, and distance, believing you were protecting yourself. But one day you realize you lost the ability to simply trust. And the real question is not how much money you have. It is whether there is still even one person beside you that you trust without proof.